Welcome to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tattooing Network.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Your source for the latest Legion news, opinion, and analysis.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
John Archiquette.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Matt Turner.
I'm not afraid.
And Joshua Gray.
You will be.
What's going on, Outriders? John, Josh, Matt, back at you again from nice, sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. What's going on, guys?
Too sunny. I'm kind of getting tired of this crap.
It hasn't been that sunny.
I'm ready for fall.
It's monsoon season.
I want my pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh, get out.
And leggings.
Go. Get out.
I'm right there with you.
Right now.
We'll hit Pilates. It'll be great.
Get out.
Okay, calm down. Let him like things. It's
Somebody
fine.
doesn't like pumpkin spice
Yeah.
lattes. Wow.
I literally
Of
get
all
them.
of the people in the
Yeah.
world who would like pumpkin spice anything, you are the least surprising person.
I was going to say, I mean, what about that
He's
would
pretty
surprise
basic.
you?
So
Yeah.
I aspire to
Yeah.
his levels of basicness.
Yeah, I know, right? Way to go, Chad.
Ugg
Hey,
needs to
whoa.
make some special Wookiee Uggs. I would buy those.
Oh, God.
That would be cool. The big furry ones with
Right.
little claws sticking out of it. I think I had some slippers like that as a kid.
The only pumpkin spice thing that's cool that I've ever seen
Are you
is
still on this?
yeah. I saw a T-shirt, right? And it was like a pumpkin spice Dune mashup.
Oh, okay.
And it said the pumpkin
spice
spice
must
must
flow.
flow.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, I know what I want for Christmas now.
Right?
But we're not a actually pumpkin spice podcast. Unfortunately, we're a Star Wars Legion podcast. So
Pumpkin Spice Legion.
So what are we doing
There we
this
go.
week?
Yeah.
Although, you know what? Honestly, after the game we played last week, I may have contemplated switching over to just pumpkin spice podcasting because Matt and I played a game, and I know I already talked about how I don't like bad beat stories when it comes to Star Wars Legion or any kind of gaming whatsoever. I had a bad victory story.
Yeah.
Like one of those victories where you feel ashamed. Like your dice are so
We
hot, you're
both spent the-
apologizing halfway
Yeah.
through.
Opposite.
Oh.
Yeah, this is one we streamed, and I think we spent most of the show each thinking that we were each going to lose. So he thought he was going to lose the entire
Oh.
game, and then I was like, no, I'm going to lose. And
So we can do a rapid fire recap on this.
Sure, go.
So basically, we were playing these transmission one, intercept the
Secure
transmission.
intercept?
Yeah. So 3 objective points, turns 2, 4, and 6. You get
Right.
points for it.
Yeah.
I ran at them immediately. Took 2, and not like haphazardly.
No,
still
he-
going through cover, doing my, doing my dodges,
very tactically sound.
tactically trying to seize these objectives, which I did. The first 3, first turn, it took all 3. Second one, I got 2 of the 3, I think. Anyway, went off to a pretty commanding lead points wise.
Mm-hmm.
However, Matt was shooting me off the board, and he was just above average as far as his rolls for offense. However, my defensive rolls were appalling. Like my white dice T-shirt saves have always been bad, like and worse than statistically normal. This game, however, 42 times I rolled the white 6-sided defense die, either for removing
6.
suppression or for defense. 4 times I successfully saved. 4 out of 42.
That's pretty terrible.
You got to want it, sir.
It gets worse.
Oh.
So
okay.
at one point, I moved Luke up the board aggressively, wiped out a unit of stormtroopers, got him into close combat with General Veers, and for it
Good
was
times.
the turn before.
Sounds like it.
The turn before I would normally use Son of Skywalker, and managed to do 5 wounds on him,
No,
almost
4.
killing him.
4.
4,
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
killing him.
Yeah, he's got 5 wounds.
He's got 5 wounds. So yeah, I did 4. Left him with 1 wound left. And on his turn, he disengages him, as
Sure.
makes sense. Well, Luke's got his dodge on
He's
him.
cagey.
Yeah.
Luke's got his dodge in full health, okay?
Yeah.
I'm expecting I'm going to take some shots. I'm going to weather this, though. I mean, I can make this. Because I'm also, like, behind line of sight blocking cover. He brings his 2 bike squadrons around, okay? I'm thinking, all right, look, he's not going to be able to drop me with 2 bikes. Oh.
Do you not know the power of the bikes?
Oh, I'm...
He's seen a
I
movie.
hate
He
that.
knows how this is supposed to
yeah,
end.
how
Right,
it's
yeah.
supposed to
Right?
be.
He's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
hit a tree on the way. We'll be fine. No. So the first attacks go off, and I think he got me like 5 times. I'm hit 5 times. all right, good time to burn this dodge. Burn the dodge. I'm hit, 3 up, essentially, 3 up save, and, deflecting back the blocks. Well, I managed to block 2, and, block 3, took 2 hits, and none of them were deflections. All right, fine.
It happens.
Take a couple wounds. I'm not dead yet. Next bite comes in, hits me 4 times. I've got 4 wounds left. I'm like, all right. I told him, I'm going to roll all 4 blanks.
You blank out.
Well, 2 blanks and 2 deflections, which, of course,
two sergeants.
Yeah. So nothing.
And Luke died.
Oh, so
It was a great day for the Empire.
It was unbelievably horrible defensive saves on my part for an entire game. And I still managed to win.
Yes. Yeah, because you actually played the objectives.
He basically tabled me at the end of the game. I had 1 wound left, or 1 dude left in 1 squad, and another squad with 2 guys left.
That's all you need, man.
No, he had all the objective points, and it was pretty clear.
Joe Duros wins it for you.
Yeah.
But I've never left a game just feeling so defeated in a game that I actually won.
I've never been so happy about a game I lost.
So for those NFL fans out there who talk about moral victories after a game, that was a moral defeat for a win,
right?
Pyrrhic victory, I believe, that's what that's called.
Yeah, right. And I believe there was a couple times in there where I swore off Rebels entirely, where I was like, I can't.
At least a couple times.
I can't do this with white.
You were covetous
anymore.
of those red armor saves.
Yeah, I'm like, I need red dice. Well, of course, Luke with red dice still didn't help.
Sure.
But,
meanwhile, you get the stormtroopers with got 2 guys left in it, and they tank 5 hits.
Exactly.
And 1 dies. And okay, I'll lose 1, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be uploading that video. I'm going to go back and watch that again.
Just save it. So they're eating popcorn.
Just despair.
Making your wife watch this.
Ooh, this is the part where he cries a little.
You ever seen a 6'6" man cry over a board game?
Yeah.
Watch this.
Good stuff. But Josh, you did some
hobby news. Yeah. So looking into how am I going to paint my Imperial Guard, my Royal Guards when they come out?
Was it going to be purple?
Discovered, purple. But I discovered something as I was trolling through Michael's this past weekend. I found color shift paint.
What? Acrylic?
Yeah. Crappy acrylic, like apple pot, like apple barrel type, but it's color shift.
Okay.
So I picked some up, and I'm like, of course, I wanted to find something with robe-ish, so I grabbed the Ion Trooper from the Snow Troopers because it's worthless, and I just figured I'd use that as a model to try and figure it out. Not really impressed with it.
Try adding glitter. Or maybe some of that Lisa Frank puffy paint stuff.
Ooh, that'd be perfect. Yes, thank you. That's a great idea.
Hobby tip from me to you, bud.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think because it's cheap, apple pot acrylic paint.
Garbage. Yeah.
I don't know if I've got to thin it down more. If it's
start
too
there.
thin. Well, I thinned it. Because, I suck at painting, but I'm not stupid.
John, do you want to airbrush with that stuff?
Not if I want to keep my airbrush.
No. So I'm trying to find the right consistency of, how much water, or if I need to put some acrylic medium in there, or something to try
maybe
and get
some Lamy and medium or something.
Something like that. It's got potential. It's got potential, and it looks really cool. But it's not there yet because I don't know if it's.
Well, put some pictures up on
get some
Facebook.
pictures up there.
I think I will.
See that.
And remember, work in progress. It's a sample model try, but it looks kind of neat, actually.
The internet will be understanding. It'll be fine.
I'm sure they will. Yeah.
Actually, no. Again, Legion community is awesome, and everybody that posts up pictures, I think, by and large, at most they'll get hey, you might want to check this out kind of tips.
But if I can get Royal Guards with color shift cloaks, that looks so cool. That'd be so baller.
If you paint them purple, I'm just going to call them Grimace.
I don't care.
I'm going to call the Grimace Guard.
The Barney Elite. Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm going to run the Grimace Guard out there, folks, which is a character from McDonald's from way back, if you're not that
You got to
that
keep
old,
away the Grimace. Yeah.
right? I will seriously pay somebody to mock me up some Grimace Guard alt art cards for those guys. I will seriously do it. Because if you're gonna drop that moniker on them, I will run it. I will, honest to God, run the Grimace Squad.
We don't take our threats very lightly here. When we make bets on things, we do it. That's
do
why
it.
that's
the
why
Wookiee
Matt,
onesies going to be coming out.
the
at
Wookiee ones
LVO,
will be coming out. That's why Matt currently has a pink Maw
I have a
Crusher
pink
for
Maw
Age of
Crusher.
Sigmar.
Yeah, that's great.
Speaking of Lisa Frank,
That's hideous.
Oh, it's so awesome. No way. That is awesome.
And you make fun of my paints?
I mean,
I did it, but
yeah.
Well, yeah,
You do.
but
that's not
What's your
not
point?
the.
She's pretty in pink.
That's
Leave her
not
alone.
that's not the coup de grace yet though, because I'm also going
what
to be
color is
adding.
that? What purple is that? Is that pink or purple?
You started it.
It started from purple and worked my way up to pink.
Okay.
And then there's also going to be some yellow meadow flowers that are going to be on the
yeah.
base.
Nice.
Happy skipping orcs.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing for that.
Nice.
To go with my pumpkin spice lattes.
Yeah, we're basic.
Oh, God.
So Star Wars news. What do we got for him, Matt?
Star Wars news. Not a lot out there. We're still a couple of weeks away from the Solo Blu-ray, so I'm looking forward to that. But some interesting news from Cinema Blend. They had a little talk with designer Neil Lamont, who has done work in the previous. But he apparently had talked about that there was plans to have a Tatooine-style set in an upcoming spin-off movie that has now been put on hold. So I would assume that would be like the Kenobi movie, but
Since it would put on hold. That's
yeah,
sad.
yeah, that is sad.
On hold does not mean canceled.
It does not mean
true.
canceled, but
Hope springs
it's not
eternal.
good.
Rebellions
Yeah,
are
right.
built on hope.
Matt or Josh, did you really just
Wow.
reference
Look at you. Welcome
a
to the light
rebel
side of
thing?
the
No
Force.
kidding. Wow.
And then via the Star Wars website, the Solo novelization is coming out, and it's going to actually include some stuff that got cut from the movie, including Solo's time at the Imperial Flight Academy.
Ooh.
So that could be kind of interesting,
And all of the other cool things that should have been in that movie.
possibly.
Yeah.
I guess we'll never know. But there's an excerpt on the Star Wars website there. You can check it out. But
Awesome.
That's about it.
So coming up later on in the show, we're going to have LJ Pena with us. Of course, LJ is the operator of the Invader League
Organizer.
organizer.
Yeah, I
Cat
think that's
herder, yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's the better way to he runs it.
He runs it, yeah. But the Tabletop Simulator Invader League, which just wrapped up its first season, it sounds like it was a great success. So we're going to have him on. We'll chat a little bit about that and what he's seeing from the virtual side of Star Wars Legion.
There's always interesting data coming out of Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, there is, and it's. I haven't played around with it that much. I've seen pictures of it and a video here or there. It looks kind of intimidating, but also cool. So hopefully we can get some information out of him that'll kind of ease my fears and maybe convince us to get involved in that too.
Yeah, because honestly, I get a little bit daunted anytime I look at anything on a computer screen and there's lots of things going on. I looked at like World of Warcraft one time and I was like, no, there's too much going on.
Sometimes there's ladies on those screens, and that confuses me.
Oh boy!
What is this? But yeah, so we'll have him on the show and we'll chit chat with him about all the stuff he's seeing there. And one of the things we want to get into today with talking about the release information that came out of Gen Con was those new factions that are coming out.
The Clone Wars era armies. Yeah, I've been devoting some brain processes to these. And what kind of mechanics and flavor would I love to see on the tabletop? So this is purely just brainstorming speculation. I'm not going to go into like, oh, what units do I want to see? I want to see more of like the thematic type things. And I was talking with Josh a little bit about this. I think this is going to be your first time through, but so Separatists and Republic Army,
It's a pretty safe assumption that's what the factions will be.
Yeah, I don't think they've officially announced that, but I'm expecting droids and clones. That's kind of the hallmark units of the Clone Wars era stuff. But some of the things I'd love to see with droids, and feel free to jump in on any of this, guys. Weak units overall. The B-1 battle droid is kind of like one of the headline units of the Separatist forces. You see them in a lot of the movies, especially Clone Wars stuff. They're just cheap units. And but there's a couple of like more elite frames that come out of there, like the droidicas, the B2s, the special commando droids, the Magna Guards. So it's not just the cheap little chintzy firepower units, but that is kind of, I feel like, the bulk of their unit should be.
So we're thinking something like maybe white save, no surge.
Yeah.
And then maybe like a white dice for offense, but then have the unit be like maybe 20 points for a unit?
Yeah, cheap. One of the other things I was thinking about that actually might make them more viable on the tabletop is maybe double their unit size.
Okay.
Make them like a 12-man unit, so you can just chop through them. One of the things, and this is with the lore as well, is B1s really are only, a worry for anybody when they're en masse.
Sure.
So what I was thinking is if you had like group firing potential pods, like 4 guys firing together, they'd upgrade their white dice to like a black dice or a red dice or something like that.
Okay,
to demonstrate that they've just got these field of fire, that they're just throwing so many shots. Or you could just go with the white dice spam. It's really kind of up to you how you want to do it. I was thinking also maybe having the B2s be like an upgrade specialist choice, because you don't want to have them, I think, as a troop choice, because they're supposed to be very special. So having them act as like an upgrade, that would be pretty cool.
I think one thing you're going to see out of this, because FFG loves their new mechanics, and FFG loves giving you reasons to buy core sets, and I think we're all pretty much agreed here that this is going to be a second starter set, core set kind of thing.
I think that would make sense.
I don't think you're going to see either of these units really have black or white or red defense dice, because you've got red defense dice over here with the Imperials, you've got white defense dice over here for the generalist troops for the rebels. I think you're going to see kind of a middle ground, and it wouldn't surprise me, and I'm going to make this prediction right now, that FFG comes out with black defense dice. And I think you're going to see that as a mechanic here where it's pretty much the same as a white defense die, where it has maybe 3 hits and no surge, because that's I think that's the red defense dice have
one
blank,
2 blank, 1 surge, 3 blocks.
Okay.
On the red defense dice, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the white is 1 block, 1 surge, 4 blanks.
So these will probably have 2 block, a surge, and 3 blanks.
Sure, that would make sense.
Something kind of like a middle ground between the red and the white dice.
I think you just throw as many cheap dice as possible at like the B1 frames, but maybe for the B2s, maybe a red dice is a little bit too much, so maybe a black dice.
Or maybe even just for clone troopers, they have a black defense die.
That would actually be pretty cool.
Right?
I wasn't sure how I would go with the clone troopers, but I mean, other general traits, obviously, we talked about they'd probably be ion vulnerable, hit somebody in the squad and they lose an action type thing.
And see, I'm not so sure about that, because at least for the B1s, we see plenty of times in all of the fluff where the B1s are afraid. They're like, oh yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sold on the idea of it's droids, so they're immune to suppression. They have no courage, and they're just ionable. And I don't know from a crunch standpoint if just flopping morale for ion is I think that's a cheap way out as a mechanic to introduce a new faction into something. I
thought about that because they are known to be fairly cowardly, except when they're got all of their buddies around them.
Sure.
So make them immune to suppression but not panic, and then but they're immune to panic as long as they're above 50% unit strength.
So there would just be
then
some sort of
that,
keyword in there
right.
I could do that.
I think if you could institute some kind of specialized unit, like some kind of droid controller, that if they're within a certain range, like kind of like Synapse with Tyranids for 40k.
That could be cool. Yeah, depending on what part of the Clone Wars they're going to be taking part in.
Yeah,
because they got away from the droid controllers after Naboo, as I understand it, but. Yeah, they're not really known for their dynamic leadership styles, I don't think, in the droid army. So, like, having abilities to remove suppression via Inspire abilities, I don't think would be appropriate for them. What else do I have here? Droidicas, I think, would be fun to have a different movement profile for them. So they have their shields that might give them that invulnerable ability like Boba Fett, when they're in their one move kind of slow pew pew mode.
But then they can roll at a speed 3.
Then they can go into speed 3, but
you
they
got to
lose
spend
that
an
ability.
action to deploy.
Yeah, something like that.
That's cool.
So that'd be a cool, flavorful mechanic. And then, there's all the units we'd want to see, like the HAAT tanks and the STAPs we talked about before. Special Forces droids, I think, some more of the elite units would be really cool. with the Magna Guard and the command and control droids that you were talking about there. But then the actual like real character generals like Grievous, Dooku, Maul, Newton. I think Ventress would be really cool as like an operative. The next one I was wrestling with was obviously the Republic and the clones, because obviously the direct analog is Empire. So we don't want to just have a copy.
But we already have an Empire.
We already have an Empire,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I figured that they should have good supporting characteristics between each other because of how they were bred and trained in the fluff.
Yeah.
You know, they refer to each other as brother. You know, they're there to fight and die, and they're engineered for combat. So one of the things I think should be really good is having more variable weapon loadouts for the specialist slots. Especially anybody who played the Republic Commando games, the DC-17Ms, I think they were called, that they had the different sniper attachments and ion and all that kind of stuff. It would be really cool for that.
What about like having multiple special weapons per squad?
Sure.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Instead of just having like one DL-19 like you see with
I think that would be
stormtroopers, you could have
fantastic, yeah.
like
There's got to be a significant penalty that comes with that. I'm not sure what form that comes in.
More points.
Whether
More
it's
points, sure.
I don't know, but
Well, but once you start adding in more special weapons and investing more into a unit,
Yeah.
You then have a unit of 4 or 5 guys that's worth over 100 points. Is that a sacrifice you want to make?
I think, yeah, the clone troop should be a better equipped and more elite army than just about any of the other ones right now.
I think so too. I think rather than seeing the red dice, white dice, or red defense dice, white offense dice like you see with stormtroopers, I think they're viable to have the red defense dice and the black offense dice, and just making them more expensive.
Or maybe black and black if they go with the black defensive dice.
I do like that idea.
Yeah. But, each unit, I think, would have an upgrade based on the commander taken also. I think that because depending, especially in the fluff, depending on who's leading the clones, they all had very different command tactics beyond the command card. So I was thinking something like Anakin giving out targeting scopes automatically for his troops, or maybe rerolls in melee combat, some kind of reckless assault trait. Things like that, where Kenobi could give like go to ground, just have something out that really kind of tailors the flavor of whatever general happens to be leading that unit of clones. But
so basically you're making them Space Marines that are just generalists that you can configure however your play style is.
Yeah.
Instead of having an army that has a style and you have to play them in that style.
Yeah. Or Ahsoka giving nimble. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Plus, you got all the commander options in the world for those guys.
Do I get an Execute Order 66 card at some point?
I think your enemy gets to play that on you.
Yeah. Like if
you
you walk out with a clone army, you have to give them the Execute 66 command card, and you just auto lose.
Yeah, that's it. Shoot
I'm okay with that.
The Jedi.
I'm okay
range.
with that. Yeah.
But I'd love to see something for all the clone troopers have like a Bonds of Brotherhood type thing, where basically they can. All the leaders can give inspire to other units that are nearby because they're keeping each other in the fight and supporting each other. And then probably a higher than average courage stat. One thing that I was toying with the idea of is because they're a super disciplined fighting force, is while they're falling back that they can still make attack actions as they're going. If they have to fall back, they'll do it in an orderly format from the battlefield,
instead of like have it be like a steady, but only that something that only triggers on a disengage.
Yeah, something like that would be pretty cool. But otherwise, other than going with this, the heavy weapons loadouts that you were talking about, 2 per unit, another option they could go for is. So they have all these attack gunships and heavy tanks and ATRTs and all that. Having more of a spotter type character as a specialist upgrade to pull in fire from off the board to kind of simulate that they would have fire support from coming in from artillery and things like that, orbital strikes and all that. But keeping it balanced obviously would be the trick.
Are we going to see transports, you think, finally?
I hope so.
I really hope so, because if anybody should be in transports, it's, clone troops, I think.
Yeah, and especially if we're looking at, a higher cost per unit, you're going to want to keep them protected.
But, yeah, and then for elite troops, there's so much source material. I mean, the Republic Commandos, let's get Boss Fixer, Scorch, and Sev out there. Get them some more missions. ARC Troopers, holy cow, wouldn't that be fun? And then Josh, I know you were talking about you'd love to have like a sub faction for like Jedi.
I'd really like to see, and we love making 40K analogies here on the show. I think that you should have, and we talk about, and this would kind of blow out of the water your idea of having Anakin be a commander and having Obi-Wan being commander. I would like to see them kind of carve that out to be Republic, and that's all clone troops. Clone army is one is one faction, but then make Jedi's their own faction, and have them play very similar to Grey Knights in 40K, where
So a hyper elite force, low model count.
Low model count, high points cost for every unit on the board. They're decent in range, good in melee. You're throwing lightsabers, which there's your anti-armor, and and just like Grey Knights, they all have some sort of force powers. So you don't have units.
Get a unit of Jedi Guardians or something.
Sure,
yeah.
right? And it's very cheap, but it has a force power. It's like Jedi Guardians; they can force push. Right?
I would absolutely play this force.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, and the same kind of people that play that force is the same kind of people that like playing Grey Knights. Maybe have one or two vehicles in there, but it's primarily a foot-bound force that can move across the field. They all have jump. They all da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Kind of distill down, kind of the same way that we have generalist. We have generalist commanders coming out where they're like, it's like a budget Veers or a budget Leia. Have a unit of Jedis that's like a budget, like a budget.
They don't have to be the
budget
name,
Luke. It's like, okay, they've they're
some Padawans from the temple are out on a training mission.
Please give me younglings.
You just want younglings out there.
You just want to slaughter. This is all a ploy to get you to slaughter younglings. You're a monster.
Yes, I am. But no, it's not a ploy. I think it would be. I think it would be really, really neat to see a faction and an army out there that is just hyper elite, low model count, but you've got to play them all very carefully because. I mean, you take Luke or Vader out there and you hang them out there and you fail a couple of saves and they're gone, right?
Yep.
So I think that would be really cool.
I think one of the upgrades they could do is like Master of the Council, but it's like Immunity Anakin on it. Have a seat.
We will be watching your career with great interest.
But anyways, those were just some thoughts I had. Hopefully we'll start getting some info leaking out from Fantasy Flight here soon, but I think... I'm excited. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are excited too.
And it's going to be far down the pipe. I mean, we're probably not going to see this for another...
2019's still not here, well, and it's an entire year.
So, they said 2019, but we're probably not going to see them, I wouldn't guess, until July, like a year maybe. So,
but they'll probably get to play with them on Tabletop Simulator first.
Yes.
Well, speaking of which, we're gonna take a quick break right now, and then we'll come back with LJ Pena.
Tune in every Wednesday to Radio Free Tatooine, a Star Wars podcast that's better than some and worse than others. Take a trip to a water cooler far, far away as we bring some casual, fun conversation into the Star Wars podcasting community. Hosted by me, Sean, my sister Amy, and John. Radio Free Tatooine. We may not know what we're talking about, but we sure know how to record it. For more, visit RadioFreeTatooine.com, a proud member of the Radio Free Tatooine Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network, recorded on location at Power 9 Games. Whether you're looking for the latest releases from Legion, X-Wing, 40K, Magic, or any of our other extensive inventory of board and card games, head to power9games.com and use coupon code OUTRIDER10 to get 10% off your order. Plus, shipping is free on orders over $100. Now, back to the Outriders.
And we're back, Outriders. John, Josh, Matt, and we've got a special guest, a new friend of the show, with, I guess, thus making it friends of the show now. We can officially say that. We got LJ Pena here. LJ, what's going on, man?
How we doing, guys? I'm hanging in there.
Good to hear. So, LJ, you are the tournament operator for the Tabletop Simulator, correct?
Correct. I run the Invader League that we use Tabletop Simulator to play.
All right, so just real quick, can you give us a breakdown of what exactly is Tabletop Simulator for people like me who are technologically deficient? And we get intimidated when we see screens with buttons in front of them.
Not just technologically.
No, just deficient. That's true. But for those of us who aren't really familiar with Tabletop Simulator, give us a real quick layman's breakdown. What exactly is it?
So if you've never played on Tabletop Simulator before, what it is it's a separate game in Steam that you can buy, and you can use it to play tabletop games. And it comes with a lot of preloaded games, chess, checkers, stuff like that. But what people have done is, like any game on Steam, they have modded it, and through the free modding community on Steam, you can download different games and then use Tabletop Simulator to play them. So, like, for example, I downloaded a Pathfinder mod, and I was able to play Dungeons and Dragons with a group online. And it had pre-made tables for us, character models, some of them moved, stuff like that. And so what Tyrion has done, the person who created the Tabletop Simulator mod, is he created Star Wars Legion as its own separate free mod in Tabletop Simulator. And you can download it, and when you actually open and start trying to play a game, you've got a board that spawns in front of you, and a army builder built right into the actual board itself, to where two players can create their armies, either use pre-made or build their own terrain, and then play a game of Star Wars Legion against each other online.
So you're saying that the game itself, Tabletop Simulator itself, was relatively inexpensive. Now, is there an additional cost for the add-on for Star Wars Legion?
Nope. Everything that you need to play Star Wars Legion is totally free once you have the game itself. The game, if I remember correctly, is usually about $20 or so, but if you put it on your favorites or your watch list, it very frequently goes on sale for about $10.
That's really awesome. So it's a very community-driven group, I'm guessing, if people are just creating this content for free.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you'll find I've actually found a couple servers in my travels and spreading around the first season of the Invader League, where there are communities of people, like Discords, that just kind of hang out and find different tabletop sim games to play with each other.
It seems like this is a really great option for people who maybe live in a smaller community. Legion hasn't really picked up in their area, for whatever reason, have a really hard time getting games locally.
Yes, and that's actually why I initially volunteered to help Tyrion run the tournament. He was busy developing the mod and trying to get more content in. And so I told him, well, I've ran 40K tournaments before. I've done a lot of tabletop gaming in the last 10 years or so. So if you want somebody to help you run this, that would be great. And for me, I was volunteering for something that I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into yet. It's turned into quite the enterprise by season 2. But for me, I selfishly wanted to get in games because I was deployed at the time, and so there was definitely nobody where I was to play Star Wars Legion with, and I didn't want to start ordering models and then have to worry about transporting them home and whatnot. And so I thought, well, this is going to be a great opportunity to get more people to play and practice on the mod, and it's going to create a competitive community that I will want to play games with as time goes on, and give me people to play with, while I'm overseas and whatnot. And so it was a great opportunity for me to meet and play with people, and it just ended up becoming something I think very interesting, really cool to see.
So you were using the game to get games in before you actually even had physical plastic models in your possession?
Oh yeah, for months I had been playing Tabletop Simulator, because I got back from that in July, and people have been playing games of Legion on Tabletop Simulator since as early as January, I think. So
before the game ever even launched.
Yes, we were playing with whatever rules we could get our hands on, and trying to start, feeling out this game for months and months and months. It felt like forever, because we were just so excited for the real rules to drop, because we had been playing with whatever we could get our grubby hands on for 2 months. And by the time it actually dropped, it was like, all right, this feels so much better. Now we think we're doing everything correctly. And that's one of the allures and the hallmarks of the league itself and the mod is that we have unreleased content on the mod. As soon as something is spoiled, either fully or in part, Tyrion will do his due diligence to put it into the mod. And then it's not totally unrestricted, but Invader League also uses unreleased content and units in its games.
So you guys have been playing with Solo and Boba Fett and all those guys for months now.
You've got Wookiees? Yep. You have Wookiees. You have Chewbacca?
Wookiees, of course.
We have Wookiees and we have Chewbacca.
What? I think you've got it. I think you just recruited somebody.
Right.
I have to show John how to install it on his jitterbug.
What's it like? What's it like living in the future? Yeah. Are you in Italy?
Yeah, I think that's why I've enjoyed actually hanging out in the Legion Discord so much for the last however many months it's been, because a lot of times you'll have people that have been messing around with these unreleased units, and we'll talk like theory craft and list building and whatnot. And it definitely gets a lot of people, I think, very excited for the future of the game, because it gives you an opportunity to realize, oh, you know what? This model, I think, is going to be very powerful in this way. And you can mess around with it, you tweak it, you get some strategy, and I mean, by the time it's released, I could tell you the things that Leia was going to be good at, because I had played 10 games with her on Tabletop Simulator before she came out and hit the streets.
So, all right, before we get into speculating too much on future units, the first season's all wrapped up. How did that go, and what did you see? What kind of patterns and lists did you see develop as the strongest of Season 1?
So in total, we had about 55 people that played in Invader League Season 1, and that was something like 108 games or something like that of Legion that was played over the span of 2 months. In that, there was a 4-game round robin. You were placed in a group of 5, and you played everybody else in your group once. And in that phase, you were allowed to change your list, and you only had to stick to one side, Rebels or Imperials. So I didn't do a lot of list recording in that phase. What I saw at the time, we had Leia and Veers, though they had some limitations, and then Snows and Fleet Troopers were legal at that point. And what I saw was that people were taking maybe one squad of Fleet Troopers, maybe 2. The Wonder Twins were alive and well. And by the time that we got to the elimination phase, which was the top 2 from each group, so it was an 18-player single elimination, all 5 of the Rebel lists that made it to the finals were double Luke and Leia lists. And
we're seeing a lot of the same patterns in Tabletop Simulator as we're seeing now in the actual tabletop game.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because those were the lists that were cruising by the time the finals came around, and I think it helped show people in our community how powerful that specific list can be, as well as some of the better, the current better Imperial lists, some of the Veers triple bikes. I'm a big proponent of Veers double ATST. I had been playing that list since like February, I think, or so.
Matt's nodding his head over here in agreement.
Oh yeah, double ATST.
That was my jam for a long time, and even though somebody might not see a particular list as the most powerful list in the game, I'm personally, like, as a player, very big on practicing the same thing over and over again, and you might be better than somebody that takes a cookie cutter list but isn't as practiced with it. So for me, that was what I was buying when I was overseas, was I was buying the parts to make a double ATST list. And now that I am home, my army is built, primed. I've barely started the painting process, but I'm getting there. And I can now take those months of practice and apply them to the physical game.
Well, that's awesome. You're actually still, playing the tabletop game as well. So you're still, participating in the hobby aspect. So that's always good to hear from my perspective.
Have you seen much of a shakeup with the elite melee units, the Wookiees and the Crayola Guard on the tabletop? Have people been enjoying those?
No on Wookiees, yes on Royal Guard. I think with the Royal Guard have It's I think it's still early, so
John, is that
it's
a
hard.
tier?
It's hard to describe exactly how they've impacted the Imperial game, but they have very positively affected some of the Imperial list I have seen out there. And the Wookiees have kind of done the opposite from the people that have played them so far. I've heard some very good things. I've heard some very good things about Chewbacca, and some very creative lists that have thrown Chewbacca in there that people have gotten to test. With Palpatine, he has been an interesting addition to the game as well, though maybe another expensive addition to an army that didn't necessarily need one.
Right?
Yes.
It's
People
okay, John. It
trust
just
me.
means you're going to have room to be a trendsetter. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. The commandos are without a doubt going to be a game changer for the rebels. I mean, I know people have kind of figured that out already because they've started to hit people's shelves, but they are going to be big. It's crazy
Nice.
the impact they've had on people's games, and I hope the Imperial Scouts get just as nice toys to play with, because otherwise, we're going to see, I think, a couple more months of Rebel domination at these tournaments at, the Novas and the Gen Cons and stuff.
Darn.
Yeah, I for one am really looking forward to snipers all the way across the board and no way to counter them. Fun.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thanks, FFG.
Well, and
Talking about your scouts, right?
that's something that people have already noticed that we've been playing around with because we've seen the commandos be so effective. People have, to a counter to that, started to take Boba more and more, because Boba can zip around that field and find those two-man teams and pop them off. And we still don't have one of his command cards that I think a lot of people assume is going to be another utility weapon. So that's the kind of outlook that Tabletop Simulator in general, because you see strategies of people playing all over the world, not just your local meta, but I've played with people on every corner of the world, I think, over the last couple months. But you also get to have that aspect where you play around with the unreleased units and start to think about strategies that, maybe you're going to see at big tournaments down the road. I mean, I haven't even started to talk about the emplacement tournaments and stuff like that. Don't get me started on those.
No, why don't we get you started on those?
Yeah, I mean, let's get you started on that.
because honestly, right now you're kind of our best source of intel as to how this is playing. So and I know I'm on Discord, and I know a lot of the other two guys over here aren't necessarily. So I know there's a lot of talk on there on Discord that comes off of Tabletop Simulator, but that's a fairly close community. Not everybody. That's not everybody's jam as far as how they're going to get their news, or they don't have time to be part of a free flowing conversation like that. So yes, please do tell us.
From what I have seen, because as I said, I stick pretty close to the Imperial side of the house. But
Good man.
Well, your logo is a good logo. That's why I came on the show.
Thank you.
I'm going to buy an eWeb because it's going to look cool on the shelf, and that's all it's going to do, I think. I think unfortunately, the Imperial players aren't going to get as much use of the eWeb as you will with the Rebel turn, because the setup thing, its movement, the way it moves, and just a lot of its qualities, you could tell thematically that they were going for something, but I don't think it's going to translate very well to the actual tabletop, and that's what people have been seeing so far in games. And it might be something like, a Veer's Triple Bikes, where people were like, yeah, this is going to be a good list, and then that list started winning at tournaments. People were like, oh, that's a really good list. There are times where people haven't played something correctly. They think about it one way and it'll become more powerful later, or they'll find a good strategy that really works. But because the Rebel variety has the 1.4 has I think a range advantage, really helps it out a lot, and it throws more dice, I think it is too. So from the people the people that have been playing it, they're not like calling it like a game changer and it'll be the meta thing that you'll include in every single list like I think the commandos are going to be. I think those are going to be very powerful in what seems to be a very infantry-centric game so far. But I do think the Rebels got the better end of the stick on that one. And it's a really cool-looking model.
Going back to the Wookiees, because this is still hurting my heart a little bit, do you think the lack of use of the Wookiees has to do with the competition for that slot with the Rebel Commandos, or is it the really weak defensive save? Like, what's the beef?
I think a combination of those two things. That's the rub right there. Is that the T-shirt saves hurt? They definitely hurt.
Oh yeah.
And again,
I know this.
Yeah. People are finding those commandos to be something else. I mean, it's effective. It does the job very well, and especially with like the 2-man teams, there's not as much risk involved. As I said, people are generally enjoying Chewie because at least he's got some staying power.
And he's got the synergy too. I mean, he works well with other commanders.
Absolutely, his crazy pool of health and his synergy with it seems almost every single commander, he's got something he can throw at you. I think that'll see him played, but right now the Wookiees maybe fill a spot that I think the Rebels are going to find occupied by other things right now.
Well, as long as I can get Chewbacca out there, that's at least I can get one Wookiee on the board.
I believe you'll see Chewbacca regularly. The Wookiees might be something like the fleets were for a lot of people. They would throw like one squad and have a very specific strategy they were going to do with them. Like what I saw a lot on Tabletop Simulator was people would run Luke with fleet troopers, and the fleet troopers would have the shotgun, because it's like if you throw those 3 squads at something, it's like, oh my god, what do you shoot at first? Do you risk the Russian-style mob of white dice from the fleet troopers with the shotgun thrown in there for that glorious Pierce, or do you risk Luke getting in your face and annihilating a squad with Son of Skywalker? And so
sure.
I think they have potential for maybe a card to come out, or for them to synergize with a specific strategy. Just from what we've noticed in our little community, they haven't gotten as much mileage as other units.
So one question I had for you, going back to your dual ATST list, when you play on Tabletop Simulator, do you have the option of putting as much terrain on the board as you want, or is there a set amount of terrain?
So there's a lot of different options. You can spawn a terrain set, and what it'll do is it will pick a type of board, so city, desert, lava, grass, something like that, and then it will spawn a little box that has 25% of that board worth of terrain already spawned
awesome.
for you, and you just place it following the competitive terrain rules. That's one method. There are also pre-generated maps that were made by the community. So, like Tyrion made a map called Tarkin Town, that it's not like a board that you might see at like an official tournament. Maybe there's a little bit more terrain that you would see, or maybe it's a little less. But that's like that's like a thematic board you can play on.
Oh, cool. So like kind of like a dense urban combat kind of thing.
Kinda, yeah. And the mod also has all of the tournament maps from the Invader League still there to choose from as well. And I talked to a couple people about this, but the way that I made the maps for the round robin was I actually took a couple of my favorite StarCraft maps and then drew their outlines on a piece of paper and then applied Star Wars terrain to those templates.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
awesome.
Super cool, yeah.
So are you seeing...
Fantastic.
You require additional evaporators.
Yes.
Are you seeing a lot of... so is the Tabletop Simulator equipped to automatically generate line of sight, or how does that work?
A lot of that will still be visual. There's not like quite a laser pointer function, but that's actually one of the nice things about Tabletop Simulator is it's a free roaming camera, so you can move it around to any angle you might want to help you with some of those those difficult line of sight situations.
Okay.
One of its strongest points, I think, is some of the functions that Tyrion built into every time you activate a unit, because every time you press activate and you move you press move, what it does is it spawns the correct movement tool for that unit, and you can increase and decrease as necessary. If you're going through like difficult terrain, let's say, you can drop it down a movement tool if you need to. When you move the leader, it will spawn a cohesion bubble around the leader, so you know what your cohesion limit is without having to do any measuring. And then when you press the range button, it will spawn all of the range bands 0 through 4, so you can see exactly, how far away stuff is when you want to shoot, again, without a bunch of extra measuring. And of course, it does it off the unit leader like it should in Legion. So
that's awesome.
And that question reminds me of, what I wanted to make sure I mentioned is there are a lot of automated things that Tabletop Simulator will handle for you. And one that I had wanted to mention was the suppression tokens. When you change turns, there's a little round counter that you can hand back and forth, just like you might in real life. And then there's also a button that returns all of the activation tokens to your hand and puts them in a nice little pile for you, broken down by type of token, which is awesome. And then there's also a button that will remove one suppression from every unit on the board.
That's awesome, because that's one thing that I know I forget a lot.
Yeah. So I know people playing Tabletop Simulator for the first time will, maybe experience it as or call it clunky because they're getting used to using all the functions for the first time. But I will tell you that once I got more practiced at it, once I got good at it, it was actually really intuitive. And I have seen many a person call Tyrann's mod one of the more intuitive of any mod they've ever seen on Tabletop Simulator. And awesome. I believe in the article he did with Imperial Discipline here recently, Tyrann said that he didn't know how to code before he made this mod.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you've got a guy that's never done this before that creates what a lot of people call one of the best mods of Tabletop Simulator, one of the cleanest and most detailed mods out there.
Dear FFG, hire that man. Make this a thing. Make this actually happen. Because, I mean, I think it'd be awesome if we had an officially FFG sanctioned Tabletop Simulator type mod where they, maybe you...
Oh, but then we'd have to pay for it.
Then you'd have to... Oh, that's true. Dear FFG, don't hire that man. It's nice to hear that it ends up being a very intuitive thing because, while I've never played Tabletop Simulator, I did download the X-Wing module for the Vassal software, and it was a mess. You had to memorize like 45 different button press combinations to do anything. And from what I see of Tabletop Simulator, it looks very point and click. Like if you need to move something, you can just move the mouse around, click on a unit, grab it, and move it to where you want it to go. How much interaction is there between you and what's on the board, despite all the things that are already automated for you?
So, as far as the setup of the game, that can be as automated for you or as unautomated as you want. We had kind of covered on already, but you can do every piece of terrain by hand if you want, or you can have the board already ready. So there's your terrain board setup done in the click of a button if you want. The cards, you can create a card for for using the competitive battle card setup if you want, or there's an interface where you can pre-select those and eliminate them as you would in like a normal game, which is nice because that could be already set up for you. When you create a list using the little list builder in the mod, you can actually save that list on a disk and then just save it as like a file in Tabletop Simulator, and then all you have to do is drag that into the game, press load, and then your army's already spawned with all its upgrades and all that. And that's kind of the gist of what he's done with this mod, is that it is very automated for things that would make like stuff like setup a lot slower, but at the same time he still left some of the customization in. There is a good bit of it that he left for the players to still discuss. So, like when a model should get taken off, you do it by hand. You know, you just click drag and drop the model off the field to get rid of that. But like I described earlier with like the activation tokens, those can all be sent back to your hand. The cards and their effects aren't automatically spawned. So, you know, if you are going to shoot with this weapon versus that weapon, it doesn't auto spawn the number of dice that squad shoots. You have to throw the right number of dice and stuff like that. So it doesn't play the game for you, but there's a lot of little freedoms that I think Tyrion has put in it to make it very modular. So if you wanted your game to be quick and kind of pre-built for you, that is available. If you want to customize every aspect of your game, the opportunity is there as well. And if I remember correctly, he actually did build like a learning scenario into it that's like the 400-point game from the box set. So if you wanted to just jump in and play a learning game with somebody, you could get started in under 30 seconds. The board's already set, your pieces are chosen. You just got to start rolling dice.
So one of the things you mentioned is, you know, Tabletop Simulator and Invader League has a really vibrant community. But it seems like Tabletop Simulator to me ends up, you lose out on one of the things that attracts me the most to games like Legion, and that's the personal aspect. You know, there isn't somebody sitting right across the board from you that you're cracking jokes with and things like that. How is the personal interaction type stuff in Tabletop Simulator?
Oh, personally for me, it's been a ton, and that's because I've been playing through the Legion Discord. A lot of times when I would invite somebody for a pickup game, you know, Discord has text channels and voice channels that you can join and talk to people. So we have a set of Tabletop Simulator channels in our Discord. That there's one for new player help and setup. There's one for finding games, and there's just one for general Tabletop Simulator chat. And then below those, there's a couple voice channels. So for me, I've actually gotten to know some of the people in the Legion community personally because we've sat down and played a game of Legion together over Tabletop Simulator. And, you know, they've had their beer, I've had mine, and we've played our game of Legion. And we've been able to do that, communicate, laugh at each other when you whiff a roll, all that good stuff that you enjoy playing with somebody in person. And I mean, in fact, if I have friends that I want to play a game of Legion with that have, you know, that I haven't been able to play in with person, this would be my recommendation, because then we can, without having to worry about meeting up somewhere and through Discord, still talk to each other. Tabletop Simulator does have a way to pick up your mic and use it in that as well. But for like official tournament matches and pickup games where the other person has their microphone, I will more than not have them join me, because it's a lot easier to tell them, hey, I'm going to shoot at that squad, when I can tell them, hey, I'm shooting at this squad right there, rather than having to have them play a guessing game. Because if we didn't have the voice capability, then there would be a little more guesswork involved. Whereas if I am in a room with you on Discord, I can say, hey, I'm going to shoot at squad number 1. Because if you have multiples of the same squad, it'll spawn a number on each base. So you know this is squad 1, squad 2, squad 3. And so we'll do that. And it'll make it a lot easier to coordinate. But then also bring it back to that beer and pretzels aspect. And you know, I was able to play a series of games with my little brother, who is in Oregon, and I'm down here in Southern California. And I mean, we were able to have a night like we were just playing anytime, any day of the week with each other, like we used to when he lived back home, just watching Netflix or watching Star Wars on a screen, which is exactly what I was doing. He was watching Empire and I was watching Rogue One, and we were drinking our adult beverages, playing Legion over Tabletop Simulator.
Dude, I need to do that. My brother's back in Wisconsin, so I need to do that too. It's a great idea. Hey, one quick thing before we get going. Of the big release, the news releases that came out at Gen Con, what was the most exciting?
Oh, man. You know, do you want that from like a modeling perspective or a game perspective?
Both.
All right, I'll do both because
Either.
Yes.
It seems ironic, but the competitive aspect of this game is not my favorite part of it. I just love the models. I
Hell
really,
yeah.
I would collect one of each of them just to have them sit and collect dust on the shelf because they look cool there doing it. So for me, like I told you, I wish that eWeb had a little more utility at face value because I think I love like models like that, like emplacement heavy weapon models from like I had Death Corps of Krieg and Warhammer 40K.
Oh, nice.
And I had so many heavy weapon squads because I just love the look of them. So both of the emplacement troops I think are fantastic. Looking models to me. I love them. I'm very excited. I had to chuckle at the dancing Wookiees that we're going to get in this game eventually. Some of them doing practicing their ballet moves. I think those are fun, and I can't wait to see those on the table across from me. Old Man Palpatine from the rule and the tabletop perspective. He has been and will continue to be a blast to play.
Nice.
And I am excited to continue to use him and to have him, help me figure things out. And I am excited to, get my hands on some of these specialists that are coming up because they're going to add a lot of utility and variety to this game. We already have the commander specialist on the docket for Invader League Season 2. Those are legal. You can use them. And I'm very interested to see what kind of strategies they allow our players to do this upcoming season.
So one last thing before we let you go here. You just mentioned Invader League Season 2. What is it? Where do folks go? Prizes?
How do we
Give us
get
the
involved?
big we've got everybody all excited about Tabletop Simulator now. But if somebody wants to get in on the big tournament, where do they go?
Okay, so the first place I would go is the Legion Discord, and that's because that's what the tournament is going to be held through. That's where you'll meet your opponents. And links can definitely be provided whenever people need them. To actually sign up for this tournament, signups are not open yet, but to actually sign up for it, you simply go to invaderleague.com. All one word, no special characters, no anything like that. That website has been good to go for a little bit. I ran everything through Google Sheets and Challenge last season, but this season we have a fancy website that's going to automate all the hard work. And on Sunday the 19th, that website is going to change. Right now it's not as fancy as it's going to be, but we're just going to press one button and update it to the newest build, and you'll be able to sign up for the website. You'll be able to sign up for the brackets, the tournament itself. And when you go, what you'll do is you'll sign up for the tournament. You'll create a login on the website, then you'll sign up for the actual season. And the Invader League itself is a 4-game round robin. So you're set in a group of 5 people, and you play one game against everybody in your group. And then you are sorted in your group by win-loss and then victory points. And victory points are the objective points from the Legion game, and you take the loser's victory points and subtract them from the winner's victory points to a max of 3. And then the winner gets those victory points, and that helps break ties. And then the top 2 from each group also moves on to a single elimination. And then their overall win-loss and their overall number of victory points will seed them from number 1 to number 16 is what we have planned currently. But it depends on how many people we have this time around. We had 9 groups last time, so we did an 18-person single elimination. I believe we gave away somewhere between $150 and $200 worth of miniature market gift cards and other swag. There were some awesome signs that Rebel Lightworks did for us that said it was a tournament sign for the Invader League Season 1 finals, and it was a see-through sign that you could put on your physical table at home.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what are the prizes for this year?
So this year, we're upping our game a little, and I think we have 12 different sponsors this season. I am so excited for this. I've been waiting to say this for like a week now since you contacted me about this. But at this point in time, we have about $575 worth of stuff we're giving away.
Ooh.
Awesome. Wow.
First place is a $100 Miniature Market gift card. And there's also a $25 Dan Wolf Games gift card. He does terrain. $25 Jagged Brush Studio gift card, does model painting, and $25 Imperial Terrain gift card, as well as the Arabesh 1, 2, and 3 Pip Gen Con cards.
Ooh,
nice. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Second place is almost all the same things, just less value. There's about, I think it's $115 worth of the same gift cards, just in smaller amounts. Third place is $85 of the same gift cards. And fourth place is $60 of the same gift cards, and then a Legion Discord t-shirt, because we helped sponsor the fourth place prize. And then 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th all get a $25 Imperial Terrain gift card. And then there's a battle report series that we're doing. So the person who creates the best battle report, this can be in blog, in filmed, in any format you can think of, will also get a $50 Miniature Market gift card.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good prize support.
And those are, that's all because of you guys, the awesome community.
Well, LJ, we want to say thanks a lot for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the insight on Tabletop Simulator. And I'm going to have to get out there and actually download that now, because it sounds like a really cool thing, and I need to get the numbers up for the Wookiees.
Somebody can run the all-Wookiee army. I'm looking forward to it.
I've talked about it, and I plan on being about it, so you'll see me in last place in Season 3.
Race you to the bottom table.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, man. We'll hopefully have you on the show again.
Thank you very much. It was great to join you guys and to talk to everybody in person. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks again to LJ Pena for joining us today, and thank you, Outriders, for listening. Check back with us next week, because we got a lot more great stuff to go over. Josh, Matt, you guys want to throw anything out there before we go?
No, I'm going to go home right now and download Tabletop Simulator. So
nice.
That's wow. And I hear it's even compatible with VR. So
wow.
Yeah. So I will, no kidding, have a virtual tabletop in front of me.
Are you going to try to integrate Beat Saber with it?
Dude, that would be so awesome. Where if I just start losing, I could just Beat Saber my opponent and then I win. Yeah, that'd be great, man.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we will catch you next week, Outriders.
You've been listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network.
Only now, at the end, do you understand?
For more from the Outriders, make sure you like us on Twitter @Legion Outriders, subscribe to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Legion Outriders, and make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.